for coming to Hilltop Grand Village for our Let's Learn Together presentation. We do these once a month, and most of them are recorded and air then on Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. So you can watch them there the following month if you ever miss one or you want to go back for more information. Tonight we're happy to have Carl DeLuca from Roberts & Associates. He's going to talk to us about chronic pain, which is something that, especially as you age, is definitely a consideration. So thank you for joining us. I'll let you get started.
All right. Okay, so first of all, I have a tendency to speak too quiet. I also have a tendency to speak too fast. So if I do either, just shout at me and let me know so you guys can hear me okay. Am I good so far? Okay. All right. So as Mystique said, my name is Carl. I'm a physical therapist over at Roberts. I'm not here to try to tell you guys need PT or to get more clients for us. Basically, I want to educate you guys about some persistent or chronic pain. If I say persistent pain, it means the exact same thing as chronic pain. We just have a habit of our clinic of saying persistent instead because it doesn't sound quite as bad to people as saying, hey, you have chronic back pain. So we started saying persistent, and that just sounds a little bit better. So persistent means chronic pain. All right. So as far as some objectives, basically want to give you some basic information on some persistent pain. Help you understand the role of the nervous system in persistent pain. Understand poor correlation between imaging and pain. Basically imaging, I mean by that, I mean x-rays and MRIs. And then answer some of your questions at the end. Or if you have questions anytime, go ahead and shout them out. That's no problem. If you have questions about PT in general, that's fine too. It doesn't have to be about what I'm talking about today. All right. So if this little cartoon person here was to step on this nail, that would feel pretty terrible, which is good because we want to know when things hurt so we can step off this nail. Oh, I'm getting in the way of this projector here. There we go. So the reason why it hurts is because we have a nervous system that tells us, hey, take your foot off the nail, take your hand off the stove, or if you're like me, you had no idea what a hair straightener was a couple of months ago, and I grabbed it. It was hot. Told me to let go. So, which is good. Someone figured out that we have 45 miles worth of nerves in our body. I'm not sure how they figured that out, or if it's the same for someone like me or someone who's 6 feet tall. But just a crazy fact there. So this slide's a little dark. Apologize for that. But basically, what it's saying is, come over here. So our nerves are kind of like an alarm system. We've got an alarm over here, and they're constantly firing at this normal level down here. They're not doing a whole lot baseline. You guys just sitting there, not doing much. It's just hanging out at a low level. All right. But if this person were to step on this nail, then instead of keeping firing down here, the nerves are going to shoot way up, cross that line up there, and obviously it's going to hurt. So basically, as long as we stay below that line, we're going to feel okay. But as soon as we do something painful, it's going to shoot up, go way up there, cause us pain. All right. But we get rid of that nail, and it's going to go shoot right back down. An ideal situation, what we want to happen, is pain goes all the way from above that dotted line on top, goes straight down back to the normal level, doesn't bother us anymore. What happens, actually pretty common, happens in 1 in 4 people, is instead of going back down to that baseline level down there, the arrow goes down just a little bit. So then at rest, instead of being down here, you're right at this baseline, right close to already being in pain without doing much already, rather than normally being way down there. All right, so this one's a little small, but I'll explain it. So what that leaves us with is this. Normally, all this blue area, that gives us all this room to do a bunch of activities. Basically, if you want to walk for a half hour, you want to go hiking, biking, whatever, gives us all this room to kind of do whatever you want. But with persistent pain, when our nerves only go down a little bit, and this is our new normal, it only gives us this much space. So instead of being able to walk for a half hour or hike for a few miles, you can only go for 5 minutes, or bike for 5 minutes. Whatever it is you want to do, you only have this small amount of room compared to having all this room that you used to have. This all makes sense so far? Okay. So an analogy we like to use is a burglar alarm. So a good burglar alarm is one that's going to go off, obviously, when someone breaks into your house. So if this little guy comes in, steals your TV, alarm goes off, guy gets arrested, awesome. But if now the burglar alarm, after the guy broke in your house, now it's extra sensitive, it goes off just because some leaves blew in, well, now it's no longer effective burglar alarm. It's kind of like when our nervous system, after an injury, or it doesn't even have to be an injury actually, when our nervous system gets a little oversensitive and stays right below that pain threshold, it thinks just walking for a little bit is painful when it's really not a danger to you. So why does this happen? Why does that alarm stay on or just about to stay on? First, we gotta understand that pain is 100% produced by the brain. I don't mean it's all in your head. Like someone asked me before, hey, you're telling me I'm making it up. No, I'm not doing that. What it means is we don't receive pain signals from our body, we receive danger signals. And our body does our brain does whatever it wants with it. For example, if you have a minor sprained ankle and you're limping across the street a little bit and you see a car speeding at you, well, you're going to totally forget about that sprained ankle. You're going to run out of the way because your brain wants it not to get hit by the car. It's going to be like, hey, ankle is no big deal for this moment. Get out of the way and so you can live. Or if you've ever heard of a professional athlete playing through an injury, not even knowing about the injury till after the game, same type of thing. Your brain, it doesn't interpret it as a danger at the time because it's focused on other things. All right. So more onto why this stays more sensitive and the alarm kind of stays on. As I just said before, it's very common. So if you do have some sort of persistent pain, you're not alone. What usually happens is there's some sort of other factors along with your initial injury or when your pain first started. A lot of times it's fear, ongoing pain, failed treatments. Sometimes you go to a doctor, you get an injection, or then you go to PT, that doesn't work. Then you go to a chiropractor, that doesn't work. You just do all these bunch of different things and that all builds up your fear. That can all make your pain worse. Or you're just really stressed at the same time. Or you get 3 different explanations for your pain from 3 different doctors. All of those factors can go into making your pain a little bit worse. It's not just the injury that you have in the first place. All right. So how to go about turning down this alarm, making the system less sensitive. First, just by learning about pain, it's already started. So if you have some persistent pain, just knowing more about it helps. And this is commonly just because from having less fear. So the reason I have this MRI scan up here is there was a study done. They took people with persistent pain, put them in an MRI scan, and told them to think about their pain. And all these different red areas throughout the brain all lit up. And then it took them out of the MRI, gave them a bunch of education about how their pain works, and made sure they understood it, put them back in MRI, told them to think about it again, and much less of the red area lit up. So just knowing a little bit helped. A good example of that is physical therapists. We have a high rate of back pain. because there's a lot of twisting, bending, lifting, moving, but compared to other professions, low rates of missing work. And that's because we understand it very well. We know a lot what goes into the pain. So this is kind of a summary of the last slide. Basically, significant portion of pain can be due to an extra sensitive nervous system. And it's not that person themselves is sensitive. I've worked with plenty of veterans who have served the country and done a lot, been through a lot of rough situations that I can't imagine I haven't done before. They're extremely tough guys, but they have persistent pain because their nervous system is ramped up a little bit, not because they're sensitive themselves. But with knowledge, you can see pain is less of a threat and can help it go down. All right. So more about trying to get the pain to go down is movement and exercise. Basically, nerves love blood, they love oxygen. That's how they get their nutrients. If we're sitting around most of the day, those nerves don't get what they want, and our danger nerves, like in our arms, our legs, everywhere in our body, they can't tell our brain, hey, we're hungry, we need blood. All they can say is, hey, there's danger. Brain's going to interpret that as pain, and if we move more though, we get those more nutrients, nerves do a lot better off. And by movement, it doesn't need to be running a marathon. Just walking is great, just getting in the pool, just some sort of movement, 20 to 30 minutes a day is great. And if you feel like 20 or 30 minutes is way too much for you, then go ahead and break it up. 5-10 minutes at a time is fine. Sometimes that's even better, because then you're up and moving more frequently than if you just did one 20-minute session and then sat the rest of the day. So a key part of the movement is hurt does not always equal harm. When you get persistent pain and an extra sensitive nervous system yelling at you, basically it's just telling you that you're moving. You're not causing an injury. For example, I just saw someone recently where she had low back pain and all I had to do was set up her back pain was just barely brush on her back, which is not a danger to her at all. I could do that on her back all day long and it's not going to hurt her. But she had pain. Reason that is because the nervous system thought anything related to her low back should be painful. It's kind of similar to an athlete after a workout. Like if Roger's here went lifting and next day he's probably going to be sore. So if you're moving, your pain gets a little bit worse, no big deal. If it flares you up for the rest of the day, or it kind of goes to the next slide. If you do too much, flares you up for a long time, then it's a little bit too much. So basically gradually increasing what you can do and taking breaks can help calm everything down. An example of doing too much is, so small picture, this is me right here. I'm not a runner at all, but I decided to try a marathon. And it was pretty awful actually. But eventually finished it. That's the finish line, and I'm all by myself because I'm in second to last place. So there's nobody else around. And it was way too much, it hurt a lot. Next few days was rough. And yeah, that's just an example of doing way too much. Yeah, actually, one of the worst parts about it was they were supposed to be giving away free stuff at the end, like free bags and whatever, and I got there so late, all that stuff was gone already. Even the tents were gone. Nothing was left, so. All right. So, summarize all those last slides. Basically, through movement and education, what we're trying to do is get the brain, kind of turn on the faucet to dampen down those danger signals. Kind of start to ignore them, rather than those danger signals coming up and your brain saying, oh, that must be pain. Trying to calm it down and say, hell, I can ignore that. That's not such a big deal to me anymore. Another good example of the brain interpreting pain is phantom limb pain, which is people who have amputations. For example, if someone has an amputation below their arm, sometimes they can still have hand pain, even though they no longer have a hand. that's because they still have the nerve endings here in their arm. They'll send signals, danger signals up to their brain. Brain's like, oh, I used to think that was hand pain. It must be hand pain. So brain really can interpret it however it wants. All right. So switching gears a little bit, I often hear, or as PTs we often hear that, well, I'm in pain, there's got to be something wrong with me. To be honest, if it's back pain, my answer to that is, yeah, there actually probably is something going on, but just because you do have something doesn't mean you have to hurt. So this slide, or this sheet over here, basically they took tons of people without back pain. So these are completely pain-free people, put them through an MRI, and they found some really interesting things. So 80% of people over 50 have disc degeneration, and 60% over 50 have disc bulging. And then we go a little older, at 80 there's a 96% rate of disc degeneration and 84% of disc bulging. So basically what this means is disc degeneration, disc bulging, or changes in your spine in general are normal as we age. Sometimes I have someone come for PT and they tell me, I got MRI, I'm 80 years old, I have disc degeneration and disc bulging and arthritis. I'm like, well, yeah, I could have told you that without an MRI because those are normal. And just because you have them doesn't mean it has to hurt. So this kind of applies to other areas of the body too. So this is in pain-free people again, and 1 in 3 people over 30 and 2 in 3 people have some sort of small or large rotator cuff tear, and this is pain-free people still. And even after a successful rotator cuff surgery, 2 out of 3 of those people still have some sort of abnormal changes in the rotator cuff. It's either not completely healed, still torn a little bit. Either way, we see a lot of patients with shoulder pain who develop shoulder pain. They go to a doctor, and the doctor says, you have a rotator cuff tear. And it's really hard to tell if that is a cause of pain or if it's been there for so many years and isn't causing their pain at all. Because just like the changes in your back, the rotator cuff tears are pretty common, and they often don't cause pain. All right. So now looking at the knee, this is taking a look at college basketball players. So these are, again, pain-free people, and 1 in 3 of them show some sort of issues on a knee scan. Either some sort of meniscus tear or osteoarthritic changes, and they don't have pain. Another example is 50% of people with knee arthritis don't have pain either. Just because you have knee arthritis doesn't mean it's got to hurt all the time. And then also you can live completely pain-free even with an ACL tear. I have a friend in PT school, he tore his ACL in undergrad, didn't want to go through the surgery, so he didn't, and he's perfectly fine. He plays soccer, he's a power lifter, he does squats and deadlifts, and no ACL, but knee feels perfectly fine for him. Okay, so this slide is kind of showing low back pain versus arthritis. That green line you're going across there is development of arthritis. So it's basically the percentage of people that have arthritis over time. You go up higher and it's a higher percentage. Then that blue line, blue shaded area, that's the rates of low back pain. So what we'd expect would be, as arthritis gets worse, low back pain gets worse, but we don't see that. What we actually see is a gradual development of arthritis over time, and low back pain, when you're about 20, not many people have it, then it goes up, peaks a lot when you're 40, 50, and then as you get older, it tends to go way back down. So even as rates of arthritis goes up, back pain is going down. So there's not a strong correlation in between arthritis and low back pain. Plus, a lot of times, if you develop low back pain and you find out you have arthritis, the arthritis has most likely been going on long before your back pain ever started. Most people have it. It started back when they were in their 20s. Now, obviously, it's not significant when you're 20, but it's very possible to live with arthritis and not have pain. So this is one of my favorite stats to point out to people is pain after car accidents. So car accidents can be a pretty rough event for some people, especially getting whiplash or low back pain. Or I see some people who had a car accident a couple years ago and it's still bothering them. Well, they took a look at demolition derby drivers, and the group of drivers they sampled had an average of 50 crashes per event and 30 crashes in their career. So they went through about 150 car crashes. But only 2 to 3% of them, which is actually less than the normal population, had long-term pain. Reason for that is because for them, going into car crashes, there's not fear, there's not anxiety, there's not stress, there's no other contributing factors going into that. Compared to if you get rear-ended out here, there's stress, there's all anxiety, there's fear that you're really injured yourself more. But this is a great example of how other factors can go into pain, and without them, you don't have to hurt. Another good example is medically trained people, such as doctors, PTs, OTs, tend to return to work after a car accident 200 times faster than people who aren't medically trained. Reason for that, they found, is because of the knowledge that they have about their pain and the knowledge that they know it's not as worse as it may seem. All right. So, last point I wanted to bring up is that most tissues in the body, they'll heal within 3 to 6 months. So, say you twist your knee and after 6 months, like a year later, it's still bothering you. That's more likely due to the alarm system, the extra sensitive nervous system going off, rather than any sort of changes in your knee. Because after that time frame, it's going to be healed up as best it can be. And yeah, there's a chance that it's not going to heal 100% correct. But as we looked at in the previous slides, that just because something's not 100% how it's supposed to be, like if you have disc degeneration, it doesn't mean it has to hurt. So, summing up this slide, if something hurts for you long after it's supposed to heal up, it's most likely a pain problem rather than a tissue problem itself. So just to sum everything up, our nervous system is kind of like an alarm system that goes off when we have pain. But sometimes the alarm can keep going off even when the danger is gone, or it just kind of hangs out right below the threshold and is just about to go off if you just do a little bit. But the more you know about pain and the more you move, the less pain you'll experience. As you move, hurt does not equal harm. We talked about how it's usually just telling you you're moving. Walking or light touch on that patient I talked about is not harmful to them. You're not going to hurt yourself a lot of times. Then we talked about there's a very poor correlation between images and pain. Tons of people have rotator cuff tears or disc bulges and they have no pain. Tissues heal within 3 to 6 months. You have pain after that, it's more likely due to your nervous system being ramped up rather than the tissues themselves. All right, so what questions do you guys have for me? Yeah.
I have one question. I had cancer and all my chemo was pelvic. I have a lot of problem in my lower hip area, and they say a lot of it is just from the chemo. Is that possible?
Yeah, that is possible.
Well, what do I get?
Right.
I mean, aspirins don't seem to help.
Yeah.
Exercise don't seem to help.
Yeah. Are you able to do, basically, can you do a little bit of exercise before it starts to get you, or right away?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think this is myself, but maybe that's the brain, the weather seems to make, is that possible, or is that in my imagination?
So I hear that all the time, and it's, people tell me that and they're like, oh, it must be crazy, but it's completely true. So the reason behind how weather can affect is basically we have all these sensors in our body. We have pressure sensors, we have temperature sensors, we have those danger sensors I've talked about. Well, when you've been in pain for so long, those danger sensors get, I mean, they're flared up, they're ready to get set up by anything. So, and they're sitting right next to our other sensors in our body. So they're sitting right next to the pressure ones. So if it starts to rain or snow, those pressure sensors goes off. They're sitting right next to the pain ones. Those ones go off also. So yeah, I hear that all the time. And
so it's not just always in my head.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I hear people all the time, like, they tell me it's going to rain today, and I'm like, and they're always right. They know it's going to rain because they can feel the pressure changes. That's not in your head.
Is there anything that you can take? I mean, I've tried to take different things, and it don't really seem to help as far as making. I did go to the chiropractor for a long time, but then after the chemo, I found out I had a broken tailbone, which probably was from the chiropractic. So I've been through so many different things that I thought would help that not.
Okay. Yeah, as far as things to take, that's not my area, so I'm not sure about that. What I advise in general is really trying to gradually increase what you can do. Like if you're, I don't know exactly, but if you walk for 5 minutes and it feels okay, then next day try walking for 6 minutes, that feels okay. Next day go for 7 or 8. So kind of just gradually increasing your activity level, and as you gradually increase it, your body can kind of see, hey, I can do all this, and I don't have to hurt. It's not a danger.
Well, I'm sure part of it is the fact that I'm 80 years old. I mean,
yes, as we age, there's normal aches and pains too. That's part of it. Obviously, I'm in my 20s. I'm not old by any means.
You don't even know what it's like yet.
Exactly, but even compared to high school, I get more sore doing workouts than I did 10 years ago. So I can imagine it definitely gets worse as we get older. That's good. Go ahead.
Yes, I was wondering, how can you calm down the nervous system? Like, you know, a person can get through the day with their pain generally, you know, but at night when you want to sleep, it nags you all night long. How do you calm it down?
Yeah, we hear that a lot where some people they're okay during the day or hurts them some, but they can still do whatever they want, and then at night it really gets them.
I can't do everything I
Well,
want
not
during the day
everything.
anymore,
Yeah.
but it seems to be worse at night.
Yep, we hear that too. So one thing has helped a lot of people is one, deep breathing or meditation has been very helpful for some people with persistent pain. Even just like a 5-minute meditation session you could find online, or just find a small book that takes you through it. Basically just 5 minutes of deep breathing, really relaxing, really focusing on your body can really help before going to bed. Does that make sense? And I can give you some resources on those if you'd like.
There are times when you're so tired you think you're definitely going to sleep, and when you lie down, then the hurt
then it gets you.
begins. So, you know, it's not, I don't know if that would work, but I guess it's something to try.
Okay. Go ahead.
How would massage therapy work in with regular therapy? I mean, as far as, you know, you get stiff and sore. Would massage therapy help as far as to relieve some of the soreness and a lot of the stretches and stuff? You know, you overdo it and you get sore.
Yeah, massage definitely helps. It's something I do I mean, it's not, when I do it, it's not massage therapy. I'm not as good as a massage therapist, but it's part of what we do as physical therapists. So what we'll normally do, like, say you have some back pain and you got a knot back there that's really bothering you, we'll definitely use some massage back there to calm it down. Usually follow up with some stretches or exercises after that. So it's definitely part of what we do and part of helping calm things down. Yeah.
What about a natural way to relieve inflammation after an injury or, like you say, overworking some of your muscles?
Okay. So natural ways you've probably heard about before, but two of the best ones are, or two of the easiest and best ones are ice and elevation. Yeah, just putting your foot up on something while or laying in bed, putting up on some pillows or up on a chair is great. Ice also constricts all the blood vessels in there to kind of to block out or keep less blood from getting in there so it doesn't get as inflamed. As far as taking something naturally, I'm not sure. Tylenol, I know that's not natural, but that's a good anti-inflammatory, a good simple one that works for people too.
Is Tylenol supposed to be good?
In general, I know I'm not a pharmacist, but in general, what I tell people is whichever one works best for you, whether it's aspirin or Tylenol.
The cancer center had told me to use Tylenol.
Okay. Yeah, if they told you that, that's fine. All right. So I got basically some of the references. I have some sheets of this if you guys are interested. And basically, there's a YouTube video called "Understanding Pain in Less Than 5 Minutes and What to Do About It," and it's great because it summarizes everything we talked about quickly. And summarizes quickly, gives you a lot of good information. Other one, it's called 23 and a half hours. What is the single best thing you can do for your health, for our health? And as a PT, this is my shameless plug for exercise. Well, I just gave it away. It's exercise for, basically it's about if you're awake, if a day is 24 hours long, if you could spend a half hour a day moving, that's the single best thing you can do for yourself. Well, I would argue that, and I guess not smoking would be 1 and 2. But either way, that video is great for just exercise in general.
Carl, do you have that video? I've seen it. It's very entertaining.
We can go ahead and play it. That's not a problem. Okay.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Evans, and I'm presenting this visual lecture called 23 and a half hours in partnership with 24-Hour Fitness. It's great to be working with people who have a passion for helping others achieve their individual fitness goals and promoting positive change in their lives. So I have a big interest in preventive medicine, which can mean a lot of things from, cancer screening to eating more fiber to having a good social network, and I mean that in the old sense of the word. Weighing less, drinking less, smoking less, controlling your blood pressure, cholesterol, and so on and so forth. So all these things are incredibly important, and I wouldn't want you to minimize your efforts in any one category, but I want to know what comes first. What has the biggest impact? What is the biggest return on investment? What makes the biggest difference to your health? So I did my research, and I found an answer, at least for me, and it's tricky because all these things are sort of overlapping. But I picked up this intervention and because of its breadth. It worked for so many different health problems, and that's what I found so cool about it. So just to kind of walk you through a quick list. So this intervention in patients with knee arthritis who receive 1 hour of treatment 3 times a week reduced their rates of pain and disability by 47%. In older patients, it reduced progression to dementia and Alzheimer's by around 50%. For patients at high risk of diabetes and coupled with other lifestyle interventions, it reduced progression to frank diabetes by 58%. Following over 10,000 Harvard alumni for over 12 years, those that had the intervention had a 23% lower risk of death in those fatigue, and of course the kind of outcome of choice. My favorite outcome is quality of life, which is really all of the above and really about making your life better. And this treatment has been shown over and over again to improve quality of life. So the question is, what's the medicine and what is 23.5 hours? So the medicine was exercise, mostly walking, so not triathlons. And let me just put it a different way. I think what I'm asking you to do is, if you think about your typical day, so there's 24 hours, and so you might spend most of your day, this varies obviously, but couch surfing, sitting at work, obviously sleeping. And what the evidence that I'm going to show you tells me is the best thing you can do for your health is to spend half an hour being active, maybe an hour, and that if you can do that, you can realize all the benefits I've described in the previous slides. So if exercise is a medicine, what's a dose? So when I think of dose, I think of how long, how often, and how intense. I'm going to give you a slightly mixed message, but essentially more activity is better. But I must say the rate of return seems to decline after 20 or 30 minutes a day. So if you're being active less than 150 minutes a week, or more if you're a kid, an hour a day if you're a kid, my flag goes up in the clinic. So my personal take on this is that the literature draws a very broad brush, and so we see big differences when somebody goes from not doing anything to doing something, and after that the return is more granular. So if we took the nurse's health study, women who went from zero activity to just 1 hour a week reduced their heart disease rates by almost half. So you can break it down, so it can be 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes if you want to do 30 minutes of exercise, so it can be broken into 3. If you're only going to do it if it's pre-booked with friends, I have couples that take a half-hour walk every morning or evening to organize their life. A dog is a great walking coach. The data is showing 67% of dog walkers achieve 158 minutes a week just with the dog walking. And finally, of course, your commute, getting up, stopped early, taking the stairs, and so on and so forth. The next way to think about it is the reverse. So what I call sitting disease, we know that being sedentary is bad for your health, but a researcher named Leonard Veerman wanted to quantify this, and he did so down in Australia in a big study they did there. They found, compared with persons who watch no TV, those that spend a lifetime average of 6 hours a day watching TV can expect to live about 5 years left. I mean, that's incredible. But I think, who watches 6 hours a day of TV? It turns out the average adult in the USA spends about 5 hours a day watching TV or screens. So I find this fascinating that we never think of the TV as something that's bad for our health, but clearly it's as powerful as many other risk factors for chronic disease. So I'm going to finish by asking you a question, and this may have some personal challenges for you. So you might be very busy with work or kids or both, and you may be in pain or have other priorities, but my question to you is, can you limit your sitting and sleeping to just 23.5 hours a day? So whether it's hitting the gym and attaining fitness goals, or walking the dog, or taking the stairs, get out there and be active. Thanks again to 24-Hour Fitness for bringing you this message. Drinking less, smoking less, controlling your blood pressure, cholesterol, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite videos on YouTube because it kind of summarizes everything that exercise can do for you. If someone made a pill that does everything exercise, that person would be the richest person in the world. So yeah, exercise does a lot, so that was just my shameless plug as a PT to include that. All right. Well. That doesn't matter. Basically, last I was just saying, if you want a sheet with those YouTube videos on there, I can give it to you. It's also got my email, cell phone, and clinic number on there. If you have any more questions or question pops up, you want to shoot, ask me something, that's perfectly fine. So yeah. Thanks you for having me, and thanks for coming. You're welcome.